Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode 301 of the Immigration Lawyer's Toolbox. A real cool interview we're having with Rekha Sharma-Crawford. She's a big-time, immigration lawyer, does hardcore lawsuits that really make a difference in the immigration space, especially focused on the Lozada cases right now, something you should really be aware of and support. She also was elected, I believe, Secretary of AILA this year, so a big name. Who's really done a lot of great work in the sphere. So definitely worth a listen to. But a little bit of housekeeping before we start. We have different courses I'm finally getting to. I was going to do this pre-recorded marriage green card course, but I threw that out. I said, let's do it live. It's more energy doing it live. So probably do a 6-week, 2-hour-a-week course on Fridays. 10 a.m. Pacific time, probably coming up in the next 30 days or so. So if you're interested in marriage green card course, we're going to throw in the K1, throw in the what's it called, basics of I-751 removal conditions in there too, so you could have that started. Just email me. Those who do this pre-submission request will get a good discount, a couple $100, and then it'll be, once it's recorded and done, it'll be more than $1,000 expensive, if not more. So just get it in quick. Also, if you're interested in an E2 course, I'm going to do like a 2-hour seminar going over approval, so you get the ups and downs of it. And I've created this questionnaire when you're hiring somebody that I'm going to put out probably free for a bit too, where you send out the questionnaire to a potential paralegal hire, so you can see how they're doing. If you're interested in that, I'm going to create a page for that and stuff. But reach out so we have your name, so when we put it public, you'll get notified of that happening. Also, magazine, we're going to start prepping for the new issue. And so we are collecting articles. If you have a good idea and you're a good writer, you have something that's new that can really help the immigration field, and you're an immigration lawyer, please reach out to me with a title or idea. Let's get it in, because getting these magazines, it's a lot of work. So we try to start collecting it right now. But the magazine's been a huge plus in support, not just the podcast, but the sponsors that come our way because of these opportunities are great, especially sponsors like Serenade. This podcast episode is sponsored by them, a technology company that's been transforming a leader in the immigration space for nearly 30 years. Not only them, they work with NASA and all sorts of big agencies to help their form softwares and data accumulation, data storage. It's amazing that the hardcore software that they have, the systems that they have, and the skills that they have is really a game changer. So, Serenade is a modern practice management software for immigration-focused legal professionals to manage their cases, clients, forms, billing, and much more with an all-in-one solution and intuitive interface, bank-grade security. My office uses this software. We have Serenade and we love it. The software is trusted by tens of thousands of happy attorneys and paralegals who use it to save hours of time, both for themselves and their clients. It's worth mentioning one last thing. What really separates e-immigration from the pack is its comprehensive across over 100 features. These include features you might not use today, but can save you time, like an e-filing system. E-immigration is the only platform that offers e-filing for all USCIS forms. Stop paying for multiple software and let e-immigration handle all your practice needs. Get more information and schedule a private demo by visiting Serenade's website, serenade.com, calling 1-800-617-4202, or emailing them sales@serenade.com. That's Serenade with a C. So look forward to this interview you're going to listen to. Email me if you're interested in any of the courses that we're doing, or the practice tests for people you want to hire. And hey, wherever you're watching this, leave a 5-star review. Any discussions about law is for educational purposes only. Please consult with an immigration attorney that can help you with that, but you already knew that already. Talk soon. Hi, Rekha. Thanks so much for coming on the show. It's good to have you on.
Thank you. This is fun. Thank you for your.
So, you got my attention because you just became a board of governors member for AILA at the conference this year. You're named. Is that correct title?
Actually, I'm now part of the executive committee. I was on the board of governors for the last 4 years. And then now when I ran for AILA secretary, it's part of the executive committee.
Oh, so the executive, just like the local chapters had the 4-tier executive committee, is it the same on national level as well?
Yeah. So you have 21 board of governors, and then you have there's I think 5 or 6 of us that are on XCOM.
I see. So this is kind of jumping into it. It's a lot of long-term responsibility to get involved with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those things that when you love the organization, you go and do what you can for it.
Well, let's go back into history, how you got to immigration law, and then kind of go into how you got because people might want to go down this path, and so what you did and stuff. So how did you get involved with immigration law in the first place?
Well, immigration law, I will tell you, was not something I thought I would ever do. But as an immigrant, people always ask you immigration questions. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't commit malpractice instantly out of the gate.
Yeah.
And so, I aligned myself and got a mentor and kind of learned all the way from bottom up to do things. And so that's how I ended up doing immigration work. It's now been 20 years or more.
And how does your firm structure look like, and what kind of cases do you take?
So the firm is mostly litigation. So we do removal defense, we do benefits litigation, we do federal court litigation, appeals. We also do family-based cases, naturalization cases. That's on the firm side. And then we opened about almost 11, 12 years ago, we opened a nonprofit. And the nonprofit arm is a standalone entity. It's a 501c3 that takes on cases for indigent individuals who are going through removal proceedings in the Kansas City Immigration Court.
That's pretty demanding. Do you have like a whole team and structure? That's a lot of responsibility there.
Well, as I like to say, we're small but mighty. But so is dynamite.
But how do you like handle that kind of? Do you have a lot of like technology systems, or how do you handle that much caseload?
Well, now post-COVID, we've gone to a virtual office. And so it's made it a whole lot easier. The law is always kind of slow to get up to steam on technology.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now post-COVID, there's been so many Zoom, things like that exist now that didn't exist before. So it's made a huge difference for us in terms of just manpower.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're a small office that does a lot of work and does a lot of quality work just because we're dedicated and passionate, and the people who are involved with it are just very, they give a lot of themselves.
Now, you mentioned you do benefits lawsuit. What kind of benefits are those lawsuits for?
So, I have a personal liking to those edges of the law that still haven't been fully developed. Mm-hmm. But in terms of benefits, what we're talking about is USCIS litigation.
Oh, I see.
So whether it's U visa delays, BFD delays, 601A delays, mandamus cases, wrongful denials, I-130 denials, 751 denials, things like that require federal court intervention to set the case back on track.
Now, how are you getting a lot of the I-601 delay lawsuits? That's going out of control, like 2 or 3 years for those.
Yeah, I'm about ready to file a multi-plaintiff litigation on that.
Oh, wow.
We're just about ready to do that. And I think we're going to have anywhere between 15 and 20 plaintiffs.
Oh, wow. That's good to know. Have people send them to you so you can accumulate these kind of larger lawsuits is really helpful. How did you learn how to do lawsuits?
I taught myself a lot. I have a background in trial work. And so part of it is I started out as a criminal prosecutor. Mm-hmm. And so once you're not afraid of the courtroom anymore, it opens up a lot of options that you don't normally go down, right? So I was like, okay, I wasn't afraid of that. I was on the CJA panel for a while, so I wasn't afraid of federal court. And then it was a question, I started small with petitions for review that were from the board to the Court of Appeals. And then I started small doing mandamus work years ago. NATS delays used to be a whole thing, right? And so that's kind of where I cut my teeth and learned how to do mandamus work and then APA work. And so you kind of build from there and you learn from great mentors. I can't say I did it myself. I said, I went out and talked to people who did the work and then learned from them. AILA has a lot of resources. National Immigration Project has a lot of resources. Like there's a lot of resources, but I'm old school. And I still say that conversation with another attorney who's done the work before, that alignment is worth its weight in gold.
For sure.
So I would get on the phone with people and say, okay, I'm getting ready to do this. And back in the day, AIC used to do a lot of litigation and a lot of teaching of litigation. So, I learned from some of the best, and you just kind of take it one step at a time. You don't bite off too much. Like I wouldn't have done a 15, 20 person lawsuit right out of the bat. I started small and then you go from there.
Just the behind the scenes of gathering the information, maintaining contracts, and just like the back house work of just handling that much clients is like a whole thing.
It is, but you put systems in place, right? Just like everything else, you have systems. And once you put the systems in place, then it becomes easier. So that's what I'm saying. Like I've never done a class action. I'm probably not set up to do a class action. And so there were opportunities that came that said, do you want to do this as a class? And I said, probably not. because they just don't have the system in place. So some of litigation is about knowing what you can handle and what you can't handle. And sometimes that self-edit is worth it. Again, it's worth kind of having that filter to be able to say, yeah, class actions, love to do it. Wish I could do it. A little too big of a chunk of the pie.
Now, you also are doing engaged in testing out the system with regard to Lozada. Is it Lozada or Lozada? It's Lozada, isn't it? Where if the lawyer does potentially something wrong, or at least the next person down the line, next attorney could accuse that person to be able to reopen stuff. That procedure to throw that attorney on the bus to be able to move things forward. What is the work? What are the working efforts you're doing on that end?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me about that, John, because I'm so passionate about that. It is something that from the day I stepped into immigration work, I went, what is this, right? Because it doesn't exist in any other area of law. And it's fascinating when you look at it from every level, right? Even when you have allegations of misconduct by the Supreme Court of the United States, there's no mandatory bar complaint filing requirement. It seems weird to me. Now, that doesn't mean we're not, what the coalition is doing doesn't say, if you're a bad actor, this is a free pass. That is not what we are saying. If you're a bad actor, you're going to be held accountable. But this requirement under matter of Lozada, which is the board's decision that they decided 34 years ago, when you go back and look at the history, what you find is it was designed to punish attorneys because the board did not trust them. I find that to be offensive. We all should, right? We don't really set up a system where we help clients misuse the system. That's not normally who most of us are. And yet, when the board decided Lozada, what they said is that's who we think you are. I think that should be undone. And so it's this prong of this mandatory bar complaint filing requirement that's self-contained. There's an exception in Lozada that says if you don't file a bar complaint, if not, why not? But the board has all but closed that door to where it's like the barest of exceptions that exist. And it's so at this point, if you're in certain circuits, all circuits require substantial compliance. Some circuits require strict compliance. I say, why are we doing that? The bar is there. We've all went through legal ethics. We all take ethics training. They say, look, if somebody is doing something unethical, you're duty bound to report that. We self-police. This mandatory requirement, it's just wrong. It needs to be undone.
It's not to say that people do unethical stuff. They just might miss something, or they miss a filing date. Or is that how it comes in?
Well, I mean, that's the problem, right? The board has made no distinction between human error and human unethical conduct. Well, again, there's something wrong. So if you're in the context of where does Lozada show up, it shows up generally in the context of a motion to reopen or reconsider. And that's true before USCIS. That's true before EOIR. It's true before the board. It's true before immigration court. And the problem becomes, again, is when you have that rigid a rule, then there does not leave room in most jurisdictions for human error. And I think that's a flawed system.
How do you challenge that in federal court? Do you need to get a case that has good facts or something to challenge it?
That's a tough one because 34 years of the federal courts all saying, yeah, we think this is okay because the board says it's okay. There's a couple of avenues. One, I think the attorney general, the fastest path forward is if the attorney general actually looked at it. The agencies could pass proper regulations and look at it.
Yeah.
And there were agency regulations that were proposed. They kind of died on the vine a little bit. But by the same token, even when you look back at the regulations, the agency went, yeah, we think this whole bar complaint thing is fine. I still say it's not fine because give me some justification that says it is.
Yeah.
Federal court's going to be a harder reach. I think the AG, the agency, those become easier reaches. And then really the bar as a whole, like we have to stand up and say, look, this is a problem. And we think that there should be changes made in terms of how this exception is interpreted. I mean, think about criminal defense work, right? Criminal defense counsel raise ineffective assistance or face ineffective assistance of counsel all the time. And a judge who is in the front lines of being able to weigh the law, the facts, and the process and make that determination, why can't an immigration judge do that? Why can't USCIS do that, right? So I think though there are opportunities there for us to be able to really change the trajectory on that issue. But it's going to take all of us on every level, including our brothers and sisters in other jurisdiction, other practice areas who say, why are we punishing this one group of people?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking, what are some stuff that listeners could do to reach out? If anyone has any special thing in this, wants to get involved, definitely we'll get your contact information later to reach out about it. But it's something that's we looked into because people make honest errors, and a lot of times people don't even make errors, but a new lawyer will come in and just accuse the person of just to reopen the case. They'll throw in the bus, even though it's unfair. Then that person has to undergo the whole issue of the bar, and until they're cleared up, it's like. You get a panic attack if someone contacts you about a bar complaint. That's like a terrible thing to have to go through. And your insurance rates go up. It's long-term consequences that affects the practitioner.
Yeah, it's an access to counsel issue. If you strip it all away, if people are not doing immigration work or they're going in a different field because they're so afraid of Lozada, it's an access to counsel issue. Right? If people, and it's stressful on both sides of that equation. People who have to file the bar complaint get stressed out because sometimes it's your friends, it's your colleagues, the person just made a mistake. We're all human. We've all done that. We've all made a mistake before. And the issue here is that if people are afraid to file the complaint so they won't take the case, or they're afraid that they will get Lozada and so they don't take the case, all of a sudden, that's what you're seeing 34 years later is people are avoiding this area of law because they're like, you know what, I'll go do something else that's less stressful. Immigration's stressful anyways. And so now to pile this layer on top of it, I think it is a huge concern that, various entities, not just AILA, but the ABA, National Immigration Project, other bar associations should be standing together to say, look, this is a due process fundamental access to counsel issue. Yeah. And, it's not just about the surface. The surface is one thing. Now, let me be very clear. People who do bad things should be held accountable, but that's true in any area of law, right? If you're a bad contract attorney or a bad criminal defense attorney or a bad probate attorney, you should be held accountable, right? But that's not what we're talking about here.
For sure. I mean, it might be in a situation where someone liked their attorney a lot and the attorney made a mistake, but they're willing to they don't want to hurt the lawyer, so they're willing to take the hit on it and just not do anything, self-deport themselves essentially. So because clients like their attorney, they're afraid to do something to somebody, they know the consequences and they'll be selfless in that way. But why put them in that position to be selfless? Why not just allow it? So there's so many angles of it. It's such a weird thing that passed. And it puts pressure on a lot of removal practitioners because that area is so complicated with immigration and everything. Usually you see that issue pop up there, but also with USCIS, affirmative practice and asylum, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, you know what, John, I will tell you, recently I came to, someone forwarded me a decision because I've been working on this for about a year, right? Mm-hmm. And someone sent me an I-140 denial where USCIS said, look, you didn't comply with Lozada. That's in the business practice. That's why I always say this isn't a removal or a business or a DOL. This is an immigration law practice issue, and it impacts all of us. So yeah, I mean, it's most commonly seen in removal defense, but it's not isolated to removal defense.
Oh, it's interesting stuff. So definitely we're going to see a lot of work on this field coming up, and I'll just we'll do more stuff on it in the progress so people are aware of it to protect the bar. And just as you said, it's already enough stress trying to figure this stuff out. This is like unnecessary stress that doesn't add to value to the clients. It just detracts from it. So kind of going back into your history, you're an advocate of just not only clients but immigration lawyers, which I like, which is probably why you got involved in AILA particularly. What is your history with AILA and how did you grow in there to where you are? Because you're going to be president one day, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I mean, that is the trajectory. So the way this works is that, the common pathway is people get joined, they volunteer to speak, and I encourage people to speak because that's where people, I mean, it's a bar association of 18,000 people. Mm-hmm. So, I think there are some opportunities for individuals to get on panels, to speak, to share their knowledge. I think if we share the information we have, it does make it a stronger bar. And there's no harm in that. I think we all win on that, right? And so, and then generally normal trajectory is it goes through chapter chair, you get involved with the chapters, and then you join the board of governors, and then from there you can go on to XCOM. I unfortunately never was a chapter chair. I come from a very small chapter, and at the time, I don't know, I just made that decision that I was going to go for the board of governors. So 4 years ago, I ran. And then from there, I thought, I was coming to the end of my board of governors term, and it's usually a 3-year term, but I filled a 1-year term for someone who had elevated to the XCOM. And so I filled that slot for a year. And then I ran my own campaign for a full term of 3 years. And so I was coming to the end of it, and I thought, okay, I have one of 2 avenues. I have one of 3 avenues. I can take all my toys and go home and call it good, or I can run for the board of governors again, or I can run for XCOM. And I thought, I really want to run for XCOM because I have some ideas on how I think we can be better and stronger as a practice. Because for me, I'm really a bottom-up person because that's how I started. And I really think that we are only as strong as the next generation of attorneys that are coming up behind us, right? Because one day you're going to retire, I'm going to retire. We're not going to do this for the rest of our lives. And so the only way that a practice area becomes sustainable and durable is if we make sure that the people coming up behind us have all the tools, all the mentorships, all the opportunities that we did. And that's kind of my goal.
Yeah, you said that because it's becoming clear that a lot of the blue collar jobs, when it comes to plumbing, contractors, and all this stuff, the average age has gone from like 30 to 50, and there's a massive retirement wave coming, and there's not enough people in these trade areas to take over those areas. So it's a very long-term thinking, but setting in place things so this practice continue, because the communities of people who need these services is just growing, and access to counsel is a big problem. Hopefully this technology stuff that we're doing and the growth in the practice, the number of people will be able to get more people access to attorneys. I think it almost like a quarter or to a third of people actually get lawyers in these kind of cases of all different types, and that's a shame because it can really make a big difference.
I think that's on us. I think that the more we say, maybe the when I started in immigration, people used to tell me all the time, oh, it's just a forms filing practice. Yeah. It is so not a forms filing practice, right? And I think we have to take that narrative away and say, no, these are complex issues that change the trajectory of people's lives and impact people's lives. Yeah. And it's important that we not treat it that way, that we as an immigration bar turn to each other and say, we are more than just scribes, right? There's a lot of analysis, a lot of thought, a lot of strategy goes into these cases. A lot of storytelling goes into these cases. These are pieces that we have to, you don't just throw them together and file them. That is the wrong way to do it. And I think it's on us. It's us telling the next generation of immigration attorneys that say, look, welcome to one of the most difficult areas of law, but we can be better. We can make sure that the law is better, the answers are better, because if we're going to wait for Congress to solve all our problems, we're never going to get there. And there are solutions here, small solutions that if we work together as one unit, we can, I think, move the ball further, faster.
You mentioned the form filling, which is, if you're around the 80s, when there was professional wrestling and people would say it's fake, the wrestlers get really angry at you. It's like, it's not fake and stuff like that. When people say it's just form filling, it's very frustrating for immigration attorneys. And one thing we're seeing is the growth of technology companies who are involved in the immigration space, who, collect the clients, and they essentially use software, and then they have like a standby attorney that could just review the form, sometimes without communicating directly with the client. And there's a lot of risks associated with that. It does drive the cost of the case down dramatically. But at the same time, I'm hearing people handling hundreds of cases at once. And I'm like, well, by name, you have an attorney on the case, but that's a very risky thing because there's so much that could go wrong, not reviewing the documents, not reviewing people's backgrounds, all sorts of issues that could pop up that are disclosed to discuss the client that'll come up after filing, and then it's too late. So that's an interesting thing that's going to be hitting the bar right now with the growth of technology, and along with that AI and all that kind of stuff, that the idea that these it's basic forms, so some technology could do the job is a problem we're going to be seeing probably.
No, I think that's right. And I think, again, it's about systems. Technology, I know probably aging myself here a little bit, but when people went to doing documents online or doing documents on computers and things like that, right? I mean, the issue was, yes, should it enhance the practice? Yes, but should it take over the practice? I don't think you can honestly say that. It should be a starting point. It should never be an ending point, at least in my opinion. And so, when people say, well, AI is going to make lawyers irrelevant, I don't think that's true, because if that was true, you still have, even with all the technology we still have clients and people who say, and we all, even as humans, crave that in-person interaction, right? We didn't say, oh, Zoom's now solved everything and we don't ever need to meet each other in person again. I don't think if you said that to someone, they would say, yeah, that's right. And I think it's the same thing here with AI. It's important that we keep moving it forward with technology because I think it makes us better. But I don't think it's the right mindset to say this is now going to allow us to hands-off approach on everything. I think that's a really dangerous precedent.
The client relationship is so important to talk with them, because like they're not going to be able to. We've all had intakes of questionnaires we send to clients to fill out, and they miss half of it and fill half of it wrong. And you have to have someone go back and talk with them to pull it out. It's not that easy to be a prompt engineer to, like, if you're going to type it into one of these AI systems to get exactly what you want. It's too difficult for people to do that. So the human to human interaction, especially in immigration law, which is so personal, and have to go back to people's lives and history, where you grew up, who was your boyfriend, who was your girlfriend, when you got married, all this kind of personal stuff. It's too much for a computer system to handle. And the computer is so sophisticated, they could, replace a human being in a certain sense. And that, when that happens, we have all sorts of other issues to think about than just this. So I think we have a long runway, but it could affect portions of the practice, but it could benefit the clients by bringing costs down and things more faster. So, for example, if like it takes me half the time to do a case, I can bring my costs down, and my costs going down, I get so many more clients, because again, the majority of people don't hire immigration attorneys. If they see it's cost effective, they'll start doing that, and it's going to help a lot of people.
I mean, I like to joke, you could probably do surgery watching a YouTube video too, but I don't recommend it. Right. And it's the same thing is that I always tell clients, when clients ask me, well, should I hire a lawyer? I say, well, I mean, you can do surgery by yourself. I don't think that's recommended. And you would never do it because you'd be like, boy, that's a dumb idea. Yeah. But these have the same level of life altering impacts, right? I mean, gone wrong. We've all seen the case where it went so horribly wrong, and an attorney looks at it and goes, man, so you would have just come in here. If you would have just avoided this, we could have gone in a different direction, right? Sure. I also think that immigration attorneys, more in a large part, are storytellers. We are at the forefront of telling people stories. Yeah. And we do that in 601As. We do that in, family-based cases. We do that in employment-based cases, in national interest waiver cases. Like, we are storytellers. Yeah. And I just think that is going to require that human component to really effectively and persuasively tell those stories.
That's well said. I think that's to be something that like gets repeated. Practitioners always remember we're telling a story in the way we prepare the application and send it in. And I tell clients that too. It's like, I tell them, your case isn't necessarily complicated, but I make it pretty and understandable so that some officer who's going to review 1,000 of these is going to look at yours and not be like, oh, this is boring. Like, I don't want to watch this movie or read this book. Because that's how it is. Even when I get done filling it L1, after the 10th time reviewing it, I'm like, oh, this is so boring. I'm reading the same thing over again. And they're seeing the same thing, especially if you're doing pre and processing where they got to get this fast. So how do we tell a story and make it as presentable as possible so the person has more enthusiasm? And the more enthusiastic they are, the more chances that they're going to, respect the file rather than just like try to get it out or put it aside. And also your case gets stuck for 2 or 3 years because they don't feel like reading it or something like that.
It's funny you say that because the National Benefits Center is right in my backyard, right? It's in Missouri. And it's literally inside of a salt mine. They have no windows. It's inside of a salt mine, right? And I always say, if you're stuck in a windowless office for 8 hours a day, right? And you've got 600 files, please entertain them. Because if you can entertain them and persuade them, chances are you're going to get the response you want. And we as attorneys need to be a little more creative in that. I tell you what, one of the best 601A filings I ever did, we told the whole story through, she was a dancer. and we took still photographs of her in various dance poses. And we included that as part of the waiver application. It was probably one of the fastest 601As I've ever gotten approved, but it was done in a very creative, non-traditional way that was so impactful, because when you looked at it, you're like, there was no way this was going to get denied, because the emotion was there, the story was there, the hardship was there. And people thought I was crazy. My staff thought I was crazy when I did it. And then it came back, and they were like, okay, we get it. We get it. So
nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. It's a lot to learn. Both people who are new to the game and ones that are been doing it for a while. It's always a lot to learn. If people want to reach out to you about the Lozada stuff, about AILA stuff, or anything else, what's the best way? Social media, email, which method do you prefer, or if any?
I prefer my email, which is really easy. It's Rekha@Sharma-Crawford.com. I mean, it's literally my name. So it's very
okay if I call you Rekha, because my last name starts with KH. So I'm like, is it Rekha? And
I'm sorry?
Your name Rekha, is it Rekha, like pronounced like
it's Rekha. It's
Rekha. Okay.
Right. So the way I joke is it's the tool and then ha. So a rake and a ha. That's how you remember.
My last name starts with KH because it's Chesan from Iran. So I thought your name was Rekha Sharma-Crawford. Okay, Rekha. That's nice actually. It sounds better than Rekha. So.
Yeah, it's different.
Well, thank you so much. Stay on the line for a few minutes. We'll talk off, but I really appreciate you coming on and share your wisdom.
Oh, thank you. This was so much fun. I'm so glad you reached out.
Thanks so much. Have you ever felt that the road to establishing a successful immigration law firm is riddled with unexpected obstacles and setbacks? I've been there, and I'm here to tell you, you are not alone. Picture this. My wife, then girlfriend, and I had just landed for a vacation, only to be greeted by a voicemail that changed everything. In an instant, once the plane landed, she lost her job. The very one job that was supposed to support us while I launched my own solo immigration law firm. Suddenly, our financial cushion vanished, and I was thrust into the high-stakes world of entrepreneurship with no safety net. Despite a slow start and a discouraging lack of leads and referrals, I remained determined to build a law firm that provided a 5-star client experience. After countless hours spent researching, watching, and implementing marketing strategies with mixed results, I eventually began to see my firm's revenues not only surpass my previous revenue and salary as an associate, but double it. Today, I run a successful law firm with a team of associates and support staff, and I'm the proud founder of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine, podcasts, courses, workshops, and more. But my journey wasn't easy. I made many mistakes, wasted time and money, and wished I had a mentor to guide me through the challenges. Although I was fortunate enough to find a few peers who offered support, I couldn't shake the feeling that there had to be a better way. That's why I decided to be the change I'd wish I'd seen. This month, I'm thrilled to announce the launch of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox private mentorship and peer group. This exclusive group is designed to bring solo and small firm practitioners in a monthly, private, and intimate setting to openly discuss business strategies, share successes, even exchange invaluable tactics that they wouldn't share anywhere else. By joining this premium group, you'll not only benefit from my hard-earned expertise, but also forging long-lasting relationships with like-minded professionals who are committed to elevating their practices. Space is limited for this game-changing opportunity. If you're ready to make a real, lasting impact on your business, simply email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Again, that's info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And I'll send you all the information you need to get started. Don't miss this chance to transform your immigration law firm and reach new heights of success.